What's going on, guys? Happy Monday. Meteorologist Jonathan Kagas back with you at our new time of 9:30. So from this point on, we are going to be hanging out at 9:30 a little bit earlier so you can get the kids to bed, all that stuff. If you're not a night owl, we're going to get this to you a little bit early. So thank you for finding us at our new time tonight. I have a couple of shout outs to give. Jody says, good evening from Orlando, Florida. Would have liked to know how long the upcoming rain would last. And there's a shout out request there. I have to go to the other one because it's long. Elizabeth and Alexandra, shout out to you guys. Thank you a ton for tuning in tonight on this Monday, July 7th. So a lot to get to this evening. We're going to bring your comments over. Post those in if you're watching on YouTube or on clickorlando.com. Hope everybody had a great 4th of July weekend. Of course, we're going to talk about a lot of things, some things on the fun side, some things not so fun. Of course, I don't know why that screen is black. We're going to get that figured out real quick. But the three things that I want to touch on tonight, let me just make sure that everything is connected here. And I think I've figured out the problem already. This should bring it up. All right, here we go. The rain chances in Central Florida, they're going to be down tomorrow, really for the entire state of Florida. So we're going to get to that. They're going to dip a little bit tomorrow. There are some places across Central Florida that is going to be a little bit higher to see rain chances than not. So we're going to break that down for you through the course of this episode. Then before we get into some of the extended tropical stuff, we're going to touch on the Texas floods. We talked about this a lot on Friday on July 4th. The night of it happened, of course, the scope and the magnitude was really realized even further over the weekend when he started to talk about the unfortunate and just unfathomable loss of life in Texas when it comes to this flood. We're going to take a look at the setup on how this was even possible. And then we're going to look at the tropics. This is Monday. My newsletter comes out every Monday evening at about 7:30. We'll talk about how to subscribe for that if you're interested in getting an update on the tropics from me every Monday night into your inbox. And then we talk about it live here, so it's kind of, you see what we're talking about. It's a little bit, it's the script before the assignment here, before the live broadcast. So if you have any questions, we can touch on all that stuff for sure. So we're going to get into that a little bit later on into the episode. Taking a live look, by the way, in Sanford tonight and also Denellen. That is courtesy of our friends at WeatherStem. Want to get you to the radar first. We were talking about this during the early shows, 4, 4:30, 5, 5:30, and 6 o'clock, that we would have the opportunity for a few thunderstorms right along I-4. Well, lo and behold, I mean, this thing popped up pretty much right on I-4 and then worked its way up, and then it's fizzling out very, very quickly tonight. And this is going to be the same kind of deal that what we see tomorrow. I'm forecasting anyway, this little sliver, not that little sliver. Let me pull this back out just a little bit. Right about from here down to here, this is going to be our best shot for storms, kind of right along and to the east of I-4. That's going to be our best shot for some thunderstorms tomorrow, but we're going to get into that a little bit later on into the episode. Real quick, want to wish Melissa a happy birthday. Jesse System, thank you a ton for tuning in again. Watching from Bellport, New York on vacation, traveled from Port St. Lucie. I remember you asking about that before. Guess you got there safe. Hope you didn't have any weather disruptions on your way up into New York. So hopefully everything is going well up there. Okay, before we get into some of the tropical stuff, I want to take a few minutes to just talk about what happened in Texas. I'm sure you guys have been following the national news. We've, of course, covered it here too. Our sister station is out of San Antonio. So we're thinking about everybody there, of course. Just an insane amount of life loss. And unfortunately, a lot of them kids, as I'm sure that you've heard. This was literally a perfect storm. By and large, this area is known as Flash Flood Alley because of the terrain, because of the river there, and because of the soil composition that's there. It causes a lot of runoff out in central Texas. So this is why it's known as Flash Flood Alley. There are a lot of flash flood events in this part. This all kind of came together from a ridiculous combination of some things. First and foremost, remember Tropical Storm Barry? It made landfall last week in parts of Mexico. I mean, look where it came ashore. I mean, that was Barry's final landfall location here. There's the Texas coastline. There's the Texas border right there. So it made landfall way, way far south of Texas. What happened was we had then gotten ourselves into a situation where we had a dip in the jet stream over the desert southwest lift that tropical moisture north. So again, it was just remnants, quote unquote, just remnants, but it lifted that deep tropical moisture from the Gulf right up into Texas. That helped to get some things going. Now, when that upper low came through, it helped to fire off some thunderstorms. But then we also had this big chunk of high pressure, this big blue thing. I don't know why it says A. It should say H. But that right there kind of forced everything right into that big black circle. And unfortunately, it all came together to make for this intense round of rain that unfortunately caused a ridiculous flash flood event. And I want to show you on the other weather computer some of the how some of this kind of came to be. And let me get the proper thing up. Let me Okay. So what we're looking at here is going to be the Guadalupe River at Kerrville. Of course, that camp was right around this area where this river gauge is. Um, and I want to just show you how, I mean, again, how crazy this was. So we're going to go back. If you can see the marker here, this was as of 4:45 Eastern time. So 3:45 local time for our friends out in Central Texas. The river was at 1.73 feet. Okay. Now, fast forward an hour, we've now jumped from no flooding to major flood stage of 23.4 feet. We jumped more than 20 feet on that river in less than an hour. So the river literally was a wall of water coming down the banks of the Guadalupe River. It rose even further, well into major flood stage by 7:45. So now we're a full 3 hours after the first little tick on the gauge to 34.29 feet. So you're talking in from 4:45 to 7:45, a 33-foot jump in 3 hours. Like that is that just it's hard to put that into perspective what that was or how that even came to be. There is so much water coming through there. Um and of course there's nothing you can do to stop water at that point. And you just feel for everybody that were impacted by this. So many um people unfortunately lost their lives, and I just can't even imagine what the families are going through out there. So Jody asked, do we know what was at fault? I went back and looked. There was definitely adequate warning. The forecast leading up to it maybe could have been better. It certainly was not built like before Helene. The word catastrophic was used prior to Helene, like 2 days before. This, not so much. So the forecasting element maybe could have been better a day or two ahead. The first flash flood warnings, though, came out 2 hours prior to the catastrophe along the Guadalupe River. Some of the issues that I'm hearing are okay, it's a rural area at that point. Of course, it's a campsite. Was there cell service? What happens is there's these alerts on your phone, and I'm sure you get them, like an Amber Alert. You get that tone, that very, very abrupt tone. That is one of those weather emergency alerts that was put back in place. Gosh, I want to say, I mean, about 10 years ago. Those are those alerts that you can't turn off, or you have to go deep into your phone to turn off. They're not from an app. They are programmed into your phone from the government. Okay, they are put in there for safety reasons. There's the presidential alert, there is the Amber Alert, and then there is the weather alert. So obviously that falls under the weather alert system. Flash flood warnings trigger that. Tornado warnings trigger that. Whenever the National Weather Service issues a flash flood warning with the considerable tag on it, which there was, I think, an hour or so later, at about a little after 4 o'clock our time, so a little after 3 o'clock their time, they issued a flash flood emergency where they said, this is a ridiculous, life-threatening event coming through. You need to take action. So the warning was there. I went back and even looked. We have, as broadcast meteorologists, we have a direct line to the National Weather Service. I access the weather chat in San Antonio. They were all over it. So a lack of warning. Certainly, I know the rumor of a lack of staffing. That was not the case. The Weather Service was prepared for flash flooding that night to issue the warnings, and those warnings did come out. Whether those were received, I've heard some reports say that people didn't take them seriously because they get flash flood warnings all the time. And then that comes with the debate. What do we do? Because if it becomes white noise, I just feel like we have a problem, and there's no blame on anybody. The political bickering needs to stop right now. Holy cow. Like, as you guys have pointed out, the loss of life is immense, and whether they're 100 years old or 1 year old doesn't matter, but it makes it worse that there was a terrible tragedy at this campsite, where dozens of kids were killed in this flood event. So the finger pointing, in my opinion, needs to stop. But nonetheless, it's Mother Nature. It's Flash Flood Alley. It has a reputation for this, and unfortunately, everything came together to create all of this. Blue Scar says the National Weather Service did a great job reporting this storm. I think they did as well. Melissa, hope you're doing well. Don't be nervous about the surgery. We'll be thinking about you tomorrow. Happy birthday, as well as I'm just looking at some of the comments now as I was going on that. But just wanted to touch on that a little bit. Alrighty, guys, I have to get to a break. This is going to be new, so I have to throw this to a break. When we come back, we're going to be gone for 3 minutes. I'm loading up the tropical stuff, and we are going to break down some of the stuff that I highlighted in the newsletter, and then look ahead a little long range to see what is out there. Stick around. We are back in just 3 minutes. All right, guys, we are back and we are ready to talk about the tropics. Thank you for tuning in at the new time, 9:30 now, Monday through Friday. Appreciate everybody sticking with us through the break. We are going to get all into the tropics thing, and we just talked about the tragedy that was partially born by the tropics, as the remnant moisture from Barry certainly aided in that kind of coming together of a bunch of weather systems to create that catastrophe in Texas. Same kind of deal here. And this is what I want to highlight with Chantal. What we're looking at now is the rainfall totals from Tropical Storm Chantal over the past 7 days. The title of my newsletter tonight was Impact Over Category. And this is what we, as meteorologists, and certainly myself, that's what I always try to convey the impact. I know it's hard to see past. Certainly, we're talking about a hurricane. Okay, oh, it's only a Cat 1, or it's just a tropical storm. No need to worry. Catastrophic flooding happened last night, over the weekend, in parts of North Carolina because of Tropical Storm Chantal. The other thing to note is that this was nowhere near the center of Chantal. If you remember, we were talking last week on the live show that Chantal was a very lopsided system. The center was to the west. The thunderstorms were way blown off to the east from wind shear. The storm made landfall around Myrtle Beach. We're talking like down here. So the center came ashore around Myrtle Beach, and then look at where the heaviest rain came. Just to the east, and then really expanding out through Sanford, North Carolina, Raleigh, Durham, Greensboro, kind of splitting the difference between that part of central North Carolina. It sent rivers into major flood stage. So if there is one thing that I would like for you guys to take away from this part of the tropical portion of the live stream tonight, is to make sure that you do your best to pay attention to the impacts. And of course, I'm going to make sure that I do my best to make those impacts as clear as possible, because that's the biggest part of my job, especially when we're in a situation like that. And hopefully we are not in a situation where we're talking about rainfall like this for a very, very long time. But nonetheless, I want you to pay attention to things like, okay, it may be a Cat 1, but is the storm going to stall? It may be a tropical storm, but is it going to have a lot of tropical juice with it to produce 6 to 12 inches of rain like you see here on the screen? So how I like to say, each storm has its own personality. And it's my job to kind of be the psychologist of the storm and figure out what is going on with that, what is going to be the calling card of this particular storm. You hear us say it time and time again, each storm is different, but it's really, really important to understand that each storm, no matter how weak or how strong on the Saffir-Simpson scale, which is that hurricane scale, it's going to pose its own threats. Some of those, again, may not be readily visible because the Saffir-Simpson scale is only a scale on wind. It does not take into account storm surge or rainfall, inland flooding, things like that. So just important to always pay attention to those impacts outside of the category. Okay, so let's get into the tropical update, and I am happy to report that right now, post Chantal, that we have no activity brewing in the tropical Atlantic at this time. So that is some great, great news. We need a break. I know there's a lot of bad weather across the country, but we need a break. No new development expected. That's officially from the Hurricane Center. Look at this, though. Eastern Pacific ready to potentially crank out another storm. Yellow highlight there. It's just going gangbusters in the Eastern Pacific, as we have talked about. So again, Chantal has come and gone, and that is going to leave us with a nice quiet stretch for the next 7 days. Now, there is this weird thing here, this cluster of thunderstorms just to the north of the Turks and Caicos, northeast of the Bahamas. The Hurricane Center does not have it highlighted. Some of the ensembles, which I will show you in just 1 second, do pick up on it a little bit. So let's go back. I want to show you the ensemble forecast. This is going to be the ensemble forecast for the next 10 days. This is the European ensemble forecast. And some of the things, there are 2 members out of the 51 members, those blue lines represent a storm track. So 2 ensemble members of the 51 European do pick up on maybe a little something, something trying to get sneaky there around the Bahamas and then lift back towards the Carolinas. Now, if you remember, this is going way back now to May, and I can post the maybe I'll post that in next week's edition of Tropics Watch newsletter if I remember. I'll make a note of it. But one of the things that we said that I thought would be the calling card, we likely will start things off at the very least with these storms developing outside of the tropics. And then once we got deeper into the hurricane season, that the active storm track might be through the Bahamas, hopefully with a recurve, but it depends upon where the Bermuda high is and where high pressure is in the Northeast at the time that those storms are active. Well, we had Chantal hit the Carolinas, so that's already one on the bingo card. This one likely isn't going to develop. It doesn't have a non-zero chance. There's a lot of wind shear still, but still certainly something is in that general area that could be guided closer to land. The other thing that I want to show you here, now this is going out 10 days. So you asked for the 10-day forecast, Jody. I don't know if you meant for Central Florida or for the tropics. My window is all screwed up tonight. So there we go. This is out 10 days. There's also something the ensembles are trying to pick up 10 days from now. So this is now going out to July 17th. So again, 10 days from now, there are a few ensemble members kind of hinting at a little something. There's an upper low out there that may be able to try to get tropical. That is way into the future, but it's something that we would watch again down the line. There's not a ton of support for it, but again, I like to look long range when it's outside of hurricane season. We're obviously in hurricane season, so this is the part where we talk tropics. But nonetheless, that is, I'm kind of combining the two, the long range tropical outlook. But again, there's nothing screaming any kind of ramp up in tropical activity. So it's important to note that I don't see that. Real quick, before I have to hit one more break, and again, post your comments into the post your comments in the comment section, and we'll answer some of those questions whenever we get back. But here is, we're looking for green, and there's not much of it. And I mean, that's a good thing. I don't see a flurry of tropical activity for quite some time, even though there's a few things on the road that I just showed you. All right, I got to get another break in. When we come back, I have about 2 minutes left in the show. I'll answer your question, Jody. I'll show you that 7-day forecast, and then we have to wrap things up on a Monday. We'll catch you in a little bit. Alrighty, guys. So this is kind of weird. I think somebody's messing with me today. If you didn't see on my Facebook page, I had a pen, not this pen. That is way in the garbage. It exploded on me today. I'm having a case of the Mondays. And whatever reason, all my icons went away. Like just when I pulled it up, Jody asked for the 10-day forecast, and I went to go pull it up. We had the percentages there. So the point that you need to know here for the 7 to 10 days that I think tomorrow's on the drier side. I'm going to break it down for you tonight at 11 o'clock, but the east side of Central Florida has a much better chance for rain tomorrow than the west side of Central Florida. All in all, giving it a 40% shot for storms. But again, the further west of Orlando you are, the better chance you have to stay dry. That's going to start to increase a little bit on Wednesday, and then we get back into more widespread rain on Thursday into Friday and then through the weekend. So that's something we're going to keep an eye on. And again, we're kind of back to regularly scheduled programming if this went out 10 days, Jody. So we're kind of in our typical July pattern once we get to Thursday and then beyond. Melissa asked, are we going to get rain in New Smyrna Beach? Just got an alert. You are not going to get rain. You got an alert because rain made its way into that little bubble. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. This is why you got an alert. There was showers approaching, and then they just kind of fizzled out there. So so that's why I got the alert. They were closing in and then fizzled out, and all that stuff. And see my timer, my countdown just started. Bunch of bad luck indeed. Hey, things might not be going the way tonight, but I'm having a great night because I'm hanging out with you guys. Alrighty. I have a hard out, meaning I have to end at 10 o'clock now that we're in this new kind of format going forward. That's awesome. That's fantastic that you had a good time at Epcot. And I think tomorrow, again, same kind of deal, going to be on the drier side over the next couple of days. So just keep that in mind, at least one more day anyway. Alrighty, guys, I hope you all have a great night. At 11 o'clock, I'm going to do my best to break down who is the best shot to see the rain tomorrow and the best chance to stay dry. I know I have to do some stuff in the yard, so I'm on the drier side of things. So I'm planning some stuff to do before work. We'll see what kind of trouble I get myself into before I come into work tomorrow. Hopefully Tuesday is a better day. I will see you guys at 11. Me, Matt, Ginger, and Ryan Welch is in for Jamie tonight. Big Orlando Magic news this evening. He's going to have the latest on that. Paolo, 5 more years in Orlando. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you at 11.